Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. The missing remains of Henry VIII's fifth wife, Catherine Howard. Henry VIII was a notorious king known for his mean streak and treatment of his friends, wives, and those who went against him. He was responsible for a large amount of executions, and sadly 2 of his wives found themselves on his list of those whom he was responsible for the death of. Catherine Howard, his fifth wife, was just a young girl. She was let down by society at the time, and her circumstances led her to the execution scaffold on the 13th of February 1542 on Tower Green, within the walls of the Tower of London. However, if you were to go and actively seek out her burial site, her remains would not be found. There is today a memorial marker at the supposed site, but Catherine Howard's remains are missing. So what is the story behind this? Catherine Howard was a lady-in-waiting to Henry's fourth wife, and after the collapse of his marriage to Anne of Cleves, Henry was soon drawn to her. She was also the cousin of Anne Boleyn, and was reportedly full of life, beauty, and much younger than his mistresses. Catherine was essentially used as a pawn. Her family pushed her into the eye line of the king, and Henry had decided that after his disastrous fourth marriage, he would be the one to choose his next wife, and he felt that Catherine Howard was the wife that he had been looking for. However, even at the time, many suggested that Henry and Catherine were poorly matched, if nothing else, because of the 30 or so year age gap. On the 28th of July 1540, Henry and Catherine were married, and it's believed that Catherine may have been as young as 15. As a young bride, Catherine found herself facing many challenges. She was now a stepmother and found herself to be at least 2 years younger than Henry's eldest daughter, Mary. And unsurprisingly, she found this role to be quite difficult. Another issue that Catherine found was due to rumours that surrounded her past, and Henry expected high standards from his wives, and Catherine's past would soon come back to haunt her. Her upbringing had been a topic for discussion for many years within the circle of historians, and it's likely that Catherine was subjected to sexual exploitation as a child within the walls of her step-grandmother's house, and she hid the details from her husband, the king. But this is something that later proved fatal for her. Catherine had been living in the home of Agnes Tilney, the Duchess of Norfolk, who also happened to be her step-grandmother. It was within her home where Catherine was subjected to the advances of her music teacher, Henry Manox, who was twice her age. Catherine and her friends were left to entertain male admirers, unsupervised, and later Catherine is also thought to have had sexual relations with a young nobleman called Francis Derham between the years 1537 and 1539. At this point in time, gossip was rife, and an upper-class girl's virginity was considered an important asset and to be protected until marriage. A reputation could be ruined by rumours and allegations, and it could destroy a young girl's prospects. Catherine's chances of keeping her past under wraps was ruined when she sadly, for her, made the mistake of having an apparent affair with Henry's gentleman of the Privy Chamber, Thomas Culpeper. There are very few details around this, but it's reported that her maid, Jane Boleyn, helped her to facilitate secret meetings with Thomas whilst Henry was away. Henry had been unaware of Catherine's past, and in his opinion, this would have casted Catherine as immoral and unworthy of his hand in marriage. Now, rumours of Catherine's affair reached the Archbishop of Canterbury, and following investigations into Catherine's past, the king was informed of Catherine's pre-marital behaviour and alleged infidelities at Hampton Court Palace on the 2nd of November 1541. It's believed that Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop, left Henry a letter in the King's pew in the Chapel Royal of Hampton Court. Now, Henry was at first reluctant to believe, but he also did not like the whole world knowing his business. He initially passed off the allegations as rumours and gossip, but then Catherine's former lovers were arrested and tortured, with Derham confessing to a sexual relationship. It seems that Henry may have been willing to forgive Catherine for her past before their marriage, but the case of an affair proved too much, and when Culpeper admitted to his clandestine meetings with the Queen, Henry's rage swept away all thoughts of mercy. Then, on the 6th of November, Henry left Hampton Court, and Catherine would never see him again. And during the same month, Catherine was stripped as her title as Queen. It would then be several months where Catherine waited to meet her end. During that time, both Derham and Culpeper were executed, and Catherine on the 10th of February 1542 was taken to the Tower of London. It's thought that Catherine en route would have passed under the rotting heads of Culpeper and Derham, which were displayed on London Bridge. The night before her execution, Catherine is thought to have spent many hours practising placing her head upon the block, which was left in her cell at her request. Then, on the morning of the 13th of February 1542, Catherine Howard was beheaded. Her maid, Jane Boleyn, or Lady Rochford, followed her to the block, and it's believed that Catherine may have been as young as 17 when she died. She died with relative composure, but looked pale and terrified. She required assistance to climb the scaffold, and according to popular folklore, her last words were, "I die a queen, but I would rather have died the wife of Culpeper." However, there are no eyewitness accounts that support this. Instead, it's reported that she stuck to traditional final words, asking for forgiveness for her sins and acknowledging that she deserved to die 1,000 deaths for betraying the king who had always treated her so graciously. She described her punishment as worthy and just, and asked for mercy for her family and prayers for her soul. This was typical of the speeches given by people executed during that period, most likely in an effort to protect their families, since the condemned last words would be relayed to the king, and Catherine was then beheaded with the executioner's axe. Her body was then taken to the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, where she was then buried. A sad fact is, after Catherine Howard's body was placed into the ground, her body was wrapped in a black cloak, and a large quantity of quicklime, or lye, was poured over her lifeless corpse. There is speculation as to why, but it does not appear to be for hygienic odour reasons. Catherine's grave is the only in the chapel to have had this horrendous substance used, leading to the sad matter that someone, probably the king, wanted nothing of poor Catherine Howard to remain. But saying that, there is a marker for Catherine's grave, but if it actually marks her grave is just a guess. Catherine's body is the only in the whole of the chapel to have not been located. But that being said, one place in the chapel does show evidence of quicklime, suggesting that Catherine's grave is located in that spot. The marker we see above the ground is merely a commemorative plaque to show remembrance to the once queen. So although we know that Catherine was buried within the walls of the chapel, her body has not been found, only evidence that it may have once been there, and it was erased from the mortal realm with the use of a material designed to erase her from the history books. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.